Hey everyone, welcome to tonight's vlog. Tonight is the night of October 16th, 2023. For anyone who hasn't seen my other channel, we brought in my biggest, most healthy looking potted tomato plant. Right now it's standing, I'm about 6'1". It's nearly 7 feet tall, but the pot's good maybe 18 inches or so. Someone had a great idea to use the furniture dolly they saw from my attic rebuild video that I threw up in the attic. Now the dolly, every couple days, I can spin it like 25% so the plant doesn't start leaning over towards the sun. It's good to rotate it. It's also good to put it up on this so I can move it over and sweep the floor, because that is one heavy pot. I can't lift it up. This thing here, I was able to lift up one corner of it, and thankfully there's carpets on the side, so I was able to slide it nicely on there. It's a little crooked, but it's fine. And now there's actually enough space that I could put a little dish under here. I've been meaning to get a PVC plug that I can glue in there, but it being crooked actually gives it a little bit more time before it starts leaking. And I don't water it that much. I'll pour a little bit of water, wait 10 minutes, pour a little more until it just starts leaking, and then we're good. This is one of the rakes we broke in a culvert pipe video. And that's holding up the cage here because this is a very heavy plant. And it would pull over the whole cage if it wasn't for that. I also have a grow light here, which is on a 12-hour timer. It's on during the day when it's also getting some natural sun, but I don't think enough sun's going to come through this picture window to get to it. See this picture window here? I got these curtains that are white on the outside so it doesn't get super hot in here. I like that. Most curtains don't have that option with the backing like that. So hopefully it'll be nice and cool in here. Sometimes this window will bake the room. So here in my kitchen we got 5 recessed lights here. Originally this house didn't have a single light in here for whatever reason. And I don't know why. That's kind of a code violation, I think. Yeah, I do believe it is. A kitchen, I think, needs to have one light. It's a bedroom and living room that doesn't need a light. The only thing was above the kitchen sink. Well, it was a shock once I installed these new lights I bought because it's dim in here. These right here are supposed to be 90-watt equivalents, but they're LED, so they use like 13 watts instead. The old lights were LED, but they were the equivalent of 150. It was very bright in here, and they also had a wider angle, so there wasn't dark spots like above the cabinet. I don't really like that. The old recessed light bulb was really wide, shining, so I might put them back. But the reason I got these is I thought they were kind of cool because instead of installing a dimmer switch, these here actually with the remote control, they all dim down. And I like how when you point it at a specific one, that specific one responds without the others. Yeah, that's why I bought these. And they also do different colors and things like that. I thought that was kind of cool because these were on sale. I've bought many remote control lights over the years, but they were usually really cheap ones. These right here were $40 for a 2-pack. But they recently were on sale for almost half that on Amazon. They also do other things like that. It looks kind of cool. And they also have more slow moving. I wish they had the feature of ones I had years ago. Years ago I had ones that would, the up and down for the dimming would also control how fast they flash, but it's set. It also has one called strobe. With an older, cheaper one I had, strobe, it was literally flickering like it was blinding like a strobe light. It actually was like a strobe light. This one, when you put it on strobe, see, that's not moving that fast. That's not like a strobe. It's not moving super fast. But I thought this was kind of cool to play with. And then when you're done, they go right back to normal lights. Now, after that, it looks really bright in here. But maybe I just have to bring them down. I'll show you why the other ones did such a good job. This is the one downside of having a bug zapper in the house. Every time it gets one, it just drops burnt pieces all over the ground. So these are the old lights I just removed that are the equivalent of 150 watts. You see how it goes over to the sides, so it shines and it gets the whole room really nicely. So tonight it's raining out a lot, and I make a lot of these vlog videos when I have nothing else to do. After like half a dozen unsuccessful trips for unclogging videos, we gave up for the year. I might go out one time before everything deep freezes, but everything's basically done as far as that until the spring. Because once you get into the summer, they start hunting off all the beavers, because that's when all the babies will be out, and they won't be affected if the parents are gone. So, happens every year. The beavers will be back in full force in the spring. So, I thought about doing some painting in the garage, putting down some mats, but I think it might be too humid to do something like that because it's raining. It's also not a great day because it's like 41. I also wanted to paint the undercarriage of this. We'll wait like 2 days, or I think tomorrow actually is going to be dry. I can roll these out, then I don't have to put down paper or cardboard to not get it all over the floor. You see, every time it's raining or humid out, see that? Got water permeating up out of every crack. That's why the ground there is a little darker. That's how high the water table is. And we got the basement that's like 4 feet further down, and it's always got water draining out of it from that. Yeah, I just went up in the attic here to grab that little dolly. This attic does not got a lot of space, but I think we're going to try to jam more things up there tonight to make more floor space. Like these things here, I only use those like once a year. Why does that got to be taking up the floor space year round? And also, the previous owners of this house had a good idea. See this giant freezer? I am only keeping this thing because in case I ever needed extra space, if I ever had a party or something here with a lot of people around, or I needed to use it for something. The only thing I've ever used this thing for was freezing 5-gallon buckets to make gigantic ice cubes, so I know it works well, and it's old enough to have a mercury switch in there. It's in like a glass tube, a thing of mercury, and it expands from heat, and it connects the circuit, makes it colder in there, refrigerating. Once it gets to its right temperature, it shrinks and disconnects the circuit. So it's very reliable, that older technology. There's no computer board in this thing. It'll go forever, and it's easy to repair. But it's yet new enough to be an Energy Star appliance. So these ones are the best. And this one is a cold weather freezer, which is awesome. A lot of normal freezers, they can't run when it's really cold out. Now, you might ask, well, some people might ask, and some might know the answer, because I've been asked before, well, why is it even running if it's below freezing? Most freezers, to really preserve your food, you want them below zero, like -10 or -20. You don't want it to be like 20 degrees because things will freeze or burn faster. So this thing would still be running even below the 0 point, technically. But there's lots of space in there. Originally, that thing was stuffed with hundreds of boxes of Christmas lights. I was kind of excited for them until I realized somebody just did an awesome job repacking them all after they were used, and after trying over a dozen of them and they all had burnt out lights and fuses, I just gave up on the big mess. Sometimes I put Christmas lights up, but I'm too lazy to take them down. I like putting them on the pitch of the house underneath the gutters, and I leave them up year round. I usually put the white ones. That looks good any time of year, I think. So I just realized things like this don't even have to go all the way up there. I can see on the back here, it's got a good lip. And it's even got, see, holes right here through the metal. So if I put hooks or just a few nails with a big head like a roofing nail, I could put them up on that wall and make floor space without cramming things up there. There's also a bunch of other things that I could maybe move. This really old heater is very powerful. That's good for working in here in the winter. Here's an old air mattress I got for free at a estate sale because they just wanted it gone. It's got a slow leak somewhere, but so slow it doesn't even matter. It takes hours to even notice a drop. I just used that as a raft out on a pond with a friend once. That was about it. Right here, I think this might end up going to trash because I don't know how long this stuff lasts. I'm touching it and it feels like it's really absorbing moisture. It feels wet. That's a bag of plaster because I made a video a couple years back with sheetrock, and I also had to plaster a little wall with what do you call it, lath board, like they did in older houses, because I wanted to know which one a blowtorch would burn through faster. So that's what we use that for. I don't have plaster walls or anything, so that probably won't get used for a while, if ever. So that's probably junk. It feels very moist too. Lamp oil. This right here is a Target. It's a bullet box that collects it so you can reuse it. That's good for like an airsoft. It uses a little plastic pellet because it collects them in there so you can reuse them. It also says you can use it for a 22, but anything stronger than that would probably just go right through it. Right here's a little project I want to do another day. You see how I got the snowblower parked right here? Well, this oil tank right here's got a weak point. You see how down here we got the oil line going to the furnace coming from underneath the tank? Well, these days, usually, this hole right here would be plugged, and maybe every now and then the oil guy, if it was empty, would, or maybe there'd just be the valve, just open it to let any water out of the bottom of the tank, or, well, anyways, the thing about it coming out the bottom is if something like this hits this, or you drop something on it, this can actually break off pretty easy, and this thing's full. You don't want to have almost 300 gallons of fuel all over the floor. So I'm thinking about with some plywood maybe, and then screwing it to that stud, making like a little box over it to eliminate the risk of ever smashing that off and spilling this everywhere. And that's one thing, if you have an oil tank like this, the majority of insurance companies will not cover a fuel spill. But if you have like a underground tank and you can prove it started leaking like 20 years ago, back then most insurance companies covered it. So if you can prove it leaked a long time ago, a very old tank, you're probably covered, but this would never be covered. Most of the time now, it would come out through the top. Since the furnace is sucking it anyways, it wouldn't matter. It could pull it right out like a straw. This is obviously not gravity fed the way it is, although the furnace is downstairs in the basement, so it would siphon, theoretically. Learned that thing there from the Tank Masters channel on YouTube. Still like watching that. Like, I haven't watched it in about a month, but today I binged it for a few hours when I didn't have much else to do. Just cleared off that entire shelf, moved everything upstairs, and everything on the oil tank just went up there. This right here is garbage that'll just be thrown out. Alright, so let's go up in the attic and see what we can find. Oh, and I got those on the wall. I was going to put them over here, if you can see the nails on that beam, but I didn't like the idea of walking under that sometimes, so it's over here now. So I was up here earlier grabbing that plant dolly. Not enough space to crawl. You gotta wiggle like a worm, but there's still a lot of floor space. Here's that air mattress thing. So once you get it off into the sides, there's a good amount of space. Otherwise, there's a cooler. There's a pump for blowing something like that up. Although my whole life I've done it by hand or just with myself. These bricks, the only reason I hold on to these is because the kitchen behind my stove has these. Yeah, it's the only reason I hold on to them as extras. There's a gingerbread man light. There's like a steamer for corn or maybe lobster or something like that. I'm not sure. But that was brand new. I just threw away the box recently. But I have barely even filled up here yet. One, two, three. And then once I get a bunch of stuff in the aisle, I'll crawl up here and push that off to the sides to make more room. I'm storing some extra lumber up here.